Welcome back to my YouTube channel, where real lives, real mistakes, and real justice collide. Tonight, we step into a place society is terrified to look at. Motherhood, a word we associate with safety, sacrifice, unconditional love. But behind closed doors, behind neat curtains and quiet streets, some mothers committed the ultimate betrayal. These women were not strangers. They were neighbors, partners, parents at the school gate. And what they did shattered families, communities, and the very idea of trust. This is not fiction. These are real British cases of maternal filicide, when a mother kills her own child. Once you hear what happened, you may never see normal the same way again. Case 1. Verinique John, a mother's secret that ended a life. 2 days before she killed her children, Verinique John searched the internet for one question: can a foreigner be charged with murder in the UK? Hours later, 2 children were dead. Verinique lived in Stoke-on-Trent. She was 50 years old, deeply scarred by trauma, domestic abuse, the loss of a stillborn baby, and the death of her own mother. Diagnosed with complex PTSD and severe depression, she was already known to mental health services. But no one believed she was capable of what came next. After assaulting her husband, Nathan John, she was arrested, then released. That decision would haunt everyone involved. On the morning of June 11, 2023, while her children slept, Verinique searched for overdose methods and prison sentences. By early afternoon, 11-year-old Ethan and 7-year-old Elizabeth were dead. Ethan was stabbed more than 20 times, including a deep slash across his neck. Elizabeth suffered catastrophic head and stomach injuries that caused fatal brain damage. Still wearing her dressing gown, Verinique walked to the car wash where her husband worked and stabbed him too. Then she returned home and calmly called emergency services. "I've killed my 2 kids." When police arrived, she begged them to shoot her. She said she wasn't a monster. She said she did it because she feared losing her children. But fear doesn't explain brutality. Verinique was ruled unfit to plead. A trial of facts confirmed she committed the killings. She was sent to Rampton High Security Hospital indefinitely. Ethan was remembered as polite, gentle, always smiling. Elizabeth, a ray of sunshine, loved by everyone. Their father said simply, "My whole world was destroyed in one day." This case exposed devastating failures, missed warning signs, weak police intervention, and a system that underestimated danger because the threat wore a mother's face. Case 2, Cara Alexander, a crime that shattered every expectation. On a cold December morning in East London, a father knocked on his children's front door. Inside, the house was silent. Cara Alexander was known as a gentle mother. She didn't shout, she didn't hit. But in the weeks before December 15, 2022, something changed. She was smoking high-strength cannabis every night, a strain known to trigger paranoia and psychosis. She had experienced psychotic episodes before. She knew the risk. That night, she ran a bath. Her sons, Marley, 5, and Elijah, 2, trusted her completely. She held each of them underwater for up to 2 minutes. Afterward, she dried their bodies, dressed them in clean pajamas, and tucked them into bed together, like they were sleeping. She didn't call for help. The next morning, their father arrived to collect them. Cara told him they were asleep. When he forced the door open, toys blocked his path. Upstairs, he found the unthinkable. Cara fled, but was arrested an hour later. She claimed it was an accident. The evidence said otherwise. 3 psychiatrists confirmed severe mental disturbance, but the jury still found her criminally responsible. She was sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum of 21 years. The judge called it an unimaginable abuse of trust. 2 children, completely dependent, completely betrayed. Case 3, Constance Marten, a life hidden in plain sight. She was born into privilege, but her child died in a plastic bag. Constance Marten came from British aristocracy. Education, wealth, safety nets most people never have. None of it saved baby Victoria. After 4 children were already taken by social services, Marten and her partner, convicted violent offender Mark Gordon, vanished to avoid losing their 5th. On Christmas Eve 2022, Marten gave birth alone in a rented cottage. No doctors, no help. Then they ran across England, avoiding CCTV, sleeping in tents, carrying the newborn in shopping bags during freezing winter nights. By January 9, Baby Victoria was dead, likely from hypothermia or accidental suffocation. They didn't call for help. They hid her body for weeks. When police finally found it, she was wrapped in plastic and buried beneath rubbish. After a nationwide manhunt, both parents were convicted of gross negligence manslaughter. The nation was stunned. This wasn't poverty. This wasn't ignorance. This was fear overriding responsibility, and a child paid the price. Case 4, Louise Porton, when deception turned deadly. Louise Porton didn't panic when her child stopped breathing. She waited. At just 23 years old, Louise was more interested in dating apps, late nights, and online attention than motherhood. Her daughters, Lexi, aged 3, and Scarlett, just 17 months, depended on her completely. Behind the scenes, Louise's internet searches revealed her mindset. How long after drowning can someone be resuscitated? Can someone die if their nose is blocked? These weren't curiosity. They were preparation. In January 2018, Lexi was found dead in her bed. Louise delayed calling for help and showed little emotion at the hospital. The next day, she was accepting friend requests and chatting online. 2 weeks later, she killed Scarlett. Scarlett was suffocated inside Louise's car. Instead of rushing to hospital, Louise stopped for fuel. When she finally called emergency services, she said it wasn't urgent. Doctors found injuries that could not be explained by illness, signs of deliberate airway obstruction. At trial, experts confirmed something chilling. Louise Porton did not suffer from mental illness. This wasn't a breakdown. It was a decision. She was sentenced to life imprisonment, with a minimum of 32 years. Their father asked the question that still haunts the case. You were supposed to protect them. Why didn't you? Case 5, Sarah Baris, when a mother became the threat. I gave you life, I can take it away. That sentence wasn't said in anger. It was said with certainty. Sarah Baris feared social services would remove her children. Instead of fighting the system, she chose something darker, absolute control. She and her partner forced their children to swallow ADHD medication, hoping they would die quietly in their sleep. When the pills didn't work, panic turned to resolve. Between 6 and 7 a.m., Sarah strangled her 13-year-old son Tristan with a dressing gown cord. His brother Blake, 14, watched, helpless, knowing he was next. Moments later, Blake was killed too. Plastic bags were placed over their heads to make sure. Another child survived an attempted drowning, a living witness to the horror. Both adults pleaded guilty to murder and attempted murder. They were sentenced to life imprisonment, minimum 35 years. The surviving children will carry that mourning with them forever. Case 6, Fiona Donison, silence that spoke too late. Sometimes murder isn't driven by fear. Sometimes it's revenge. After her relationship ended, Fiona Donison decided her ex-partner would suffer, not by losing her, but by losing everything. She smothered her 2 youngest children, Harry and Elise, as they slept. Then she placed their bodies in sports bags and drove 90 miles before walking into a police station and calmly saying, "I've killed my children." Evidence showed planning, control, awareness. Psychiatrists described her as manipulative and narcissistic, not delusional. She was sentenced to life imprisonment, with a minimum of 32 years. The judge called it a deliberate and wicked act of vengeance. Case 7, Amanda Hutton, a trust fatally broken. Not all child killings are violent. Some happen slowly, in neglect, isolation, and silence. Amanda Hutton's son Hamza, aged 4, starved to death. His body lay hidden in her home for nearly 2 years, buried beneath clothes and rubbish. Missed health appointments, ignored concerns, no intervention. When Hamza was finally discovered, his body was mummified. He was wearing clothes meant for a baby. Police called it one of the worst failures they had ever seen. Amanda was sentenced to 15 years in prison. For Hamza, justice came far too late. These mothers didn't look dangerous. That's what makes these cases so disturbing. The threat didn't come from dark alleys or strangers. It came from inside homes, from people children trusted most. Across every case, the warnings were there. Escalating mental health crises, digital search histories, isolation, fear of losing control, silence from professionals who hesitated too long. Evil doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers behind closed doors. If these stories teach us anything, it's this. Ignoring warning signs doesn't keep families together. It destroys them. If you want more real British crime stories, fully researched, carefully told, and focused on truth rather than shock, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because some stories don't just inform us, they warn us. UK Real Crime. Real cases, real people, real consequences.